What you know, Joe?
I don't know nothing.
What you know, Joe?
Tell me something.
What you know?
Welcome to the What You Know Joe podcast with Joe Wallenstein.
Hey, Vince. Hi.
Good to see you today. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for doing this with me.
Today we're really excited to talk to you because you wrote a book, Nothing Dies for Film. There it is. And this just came out.
Yeah.
And congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
This must have been pretty satisfying to do all of this work, and then here we are with the actual finished book in our hands. That must be pretty exciting.
It is exciting. Of the 3 books I've written, this one is really in my own voice.
Here's the other two.
Yes. There's the other 2. This one just got optioned for a motion picture.
Nice, exciting.
And for those of you under 60, this fellow here is Ernesto Miranda, for whom the Miranda rights was named. But it's actually the guy on the left, John Flynn, who paid all the dues. My first book was Practical Movie Making. It's a little technical. It's a niche book. But here's the good news, Vince. I'm not trying to sell anybody this book. Make my publisher happy if anybody bought it. But what I do think about this book is it belongs in the curriculum of every film school in the world. Why? Safety in filmmaking is not about what you can't do. When you really grasp safety as a function of production, what it does is it frees up the director and the actor for more time together, and the director and the cinematographer. Why is that important? Because in a 12-hour day, you could get down to the last hour or so and have 2 or 3 setups you need. No more time, no more money. So how a set runs and the concept of safety being part of the fluid progress of the day makes a huge difference in the life of the filmmaker. So I hope in time this will end up in film schools. And that goes back to this. Anybody who will work for me, and it's funny, we just experienced that. Somebody very grateful.
Yes.
Right?
We just literally on the way in, we bumped into a former student. I haven't seen her in 3 years.
No, it's longer than that. It's more like 6 or 7. And she just did her first movie, and she thanked me. She said, Joe, I thought of you and what you taught us every day.
Yeah. He's not lying. I was right there.
I got a witness.
She's gushing. So this has a spine of safety, and you're at Barnes and Noble, and you're sitting there, and you're doing book signings, and somebody asks you what it's about. What's your sort of short explanation of this book?
It's how you make films. It's what you do with prep.
Yeah.
It's how because I think you can't escape that it's a book about safety.
Right.
But I hope to redefine safety, not as that like you would say, that annoying thing, oh, God, what's he going to say?
Right.
It's part of easy filmmaking.
Right.
It's like, I think I told you in another life, as an assistant director, if somebody doesn't run that set, electricians will trip over the grips, who will trip over the wardrobe people, who trip over the set dressers. Choreography. This is about choreography of filmmaking.
Right. Preparation, good preparation.
Yeah. Prep is everything.
We were talking earlier, and even in a previous episode, that sometimes it's thought of, this conversation of safety is thought of as really annoying with it's like against the creative process. But your argument is that paying attention to it and giving it value, just like you would the wardrobe department, just like you would props and every other department,
uplifts the
gives
production.
you the freedom to have a really secure and safe and enjoyable set.
And it allows the director more time with the actor. It allows the director more time with the cinematographer. Yeah. I think I told you, well, let me back up. There are 14 chapters in the book, 2 of which are unique to L.A., the zone and permits. But the other 12 are rooftops and vehicles and stunts. But the 2 most, in my opinion, most problematic are water and fire. Water because things happen very quickly in water. And fire because, unlike a weapon which you could drop or set aside, once fire gets going, it can very easily take on a life of its own. So there was a young fellow who was doing this on one of our stages. He built a cabin.
On stage,
On
not
stage,
outside.
correct. And he wanted to, it's about a miner, and he's in this cabin, and he's writing his last will and testament. And he's doing it by kerosene lamp. So I said to the kid, well, you can't in that set put 3 or 4 or 5 real kerosene lanterns. First of all, carbon monoxide, you'll be asleep in 20 minutes.
Forever.
So, or longer. So you use LED, and it looked the same. And, oh, no, Joe, I got to have one flame. I got to see it. He said, well, it will. No, I got to. Okay. So he hammers away, and finally I relent, and I say, okay, going to have that one lantern. The others are LED. Okay, Joe, thank you. The morning of, his production designer comes in and says, I got a great idea. I'm going to sprinkle dry straw all over the set.
Dry, flammable.
Dry, extremely flammable. So the kid says, well, I know who we're not going to mention this to because Joe is going to say no. So they go ahead and they do it. And this kid just focuses on that one lantern that is a real lantern. And he was so focused, so worried about it, that he took his eye off the actor. The actor looked the wrong way, didn't hit his mark, said the wrong dialogue. At the end of the day, the kid had a perfectly nice shot of the light, but it was a perfectly useless scene.
Yeah.
So I said to him, I said, look, man, don't you realize that you do it the right way, and you would have had 12 hours. You could have done it
Yeah. Yeah.
15 takes.
Yeah.
They're A and C filmmakers. A, they have a fabulous idea. And C, they see it in their mind.
Yeah.
But film is made in the heavy lifting of B. How do you get from the page to the stage?
Mm-hmm.
So this is about that. It's not about what you can't do.
You had a great example. There was a mutual friend of ours, Reed Simonson, who worked for you, graduated from the program, went on to be a great filmmaker, and he had his film Molly Goes West,
Right.
Set in the 1800s. And there was something in a conversation that you guys had together that brought out a problem that he didn't anticipate.
Correct. He called me, and he said, I have this one shot. It's my actress. She's going to, she drives this wagon. She pulls this wagon up the hill. And I said to him, have you rehearsed it with her? Well, no, but it's just one shot. And I said, listen, not for nothing. But you're going to bring your whole company out there. You're not in the middle of town. You get out there. Number one, A, she may not be able to do it, or B, she'll able to hurt her back. That's maybe you think about either photo doubling her or getting a balsa wood, something that's lighter, cart, right? Didn't see him. I didn't hear from him for a couple of days. He called me. He says, oh, Joe, am I glad we had that conversation. She could not pull that wagon, and we had one made, and it was fine. And you look at the screen, looks like it creaks like a heavy wagon. It looks like a heavy. She plays the weight of it, but she could have gone up and down that hill 10 times. Without,
Yeah.
The real world
Yeah.
has no obligation to honor your vision.
Right.
The real world will predominate no matter what you do, how smart you are, how, all the rest of it. The real world will take precedence.
Yeah.
And also in this book, I didn't mince words. I mean, I took responsibility. I made mistakes. And I'm very lucky that I never really paid a high price for it.
Right.
But one of the mistakes I always say you can't ask too many questions. You can only ask too few. Well, I fell victim to that myself. Mm-hmm. We were doing the safety seminar, and there was a young lady in the front row. Her hair was this color. Mm-hmm. She had bright orange hair. And she raised her hand and said, Joe, can I photograph my horse going into the barn? And I said, well, yeah, sure. But is it going to be you? Is it your horse? Is it going to be an actor? Does the actor know the horse? Does the horse know the actor? I mean, do you have a wrangler or blah, blah? Yep, got it. Okay. I said, but yeah, you could do it. I didn't hear from her for 6 weeks. She came up to my office because I had signed a safety sign-off. Just out of sheer dumb luck, I said to her, by the way, how does the horse get in the barn? Me thinking, is somebody leading them in? Are they walking in? Are they riding? She's, it crashes through the window. I said, well, time out, boys and girls. What do we mean? Because she had seen, I think it was in True Lies, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, where there's a horse in the elevator and the horse goes through the glass.
in your professional career as a producer, as a director, you've had enough experience on sets that weren't in your control, sets that were in your control. And the beauty of all of that experience comes down to this book where you can openly talk about your close calls and mistakes, things that worked, and hopefully point a lot of information to young filmmakers, cameras, phones, new media.
This is the future. We have a bad habit in this town, a little chauvinistic, referring to middle America as the flyovers. The only problem with that is the flyovers outnumber the filmmakers about 200 to 1. There's got to be 20 million young people in this country who are interested in expressing themselves visually.
Yeah.
This is the device that you can do it with. And you can, you have a computer, you can edit it, you can add the sound and the graphics and the whole nine. So it's no more, you got to come to Hollywood, get a $2 million camera and 300 guys, right? So that's called the democratization of filmmaking.
Right.
Right? But you're making a movie. You are going to have some people helping you. It is going to cost something.
Yeah.
And the thing about filmmaking, it doesn't matter whether it's 1 day, 10,000, or 60 days, 60 million. The process is the same.
Yeah.
The amount of equipment, the salaries, the scope are different. Yes, of course. But it still requires prep, shoot, wrap. And so my offer is the one thing I can do, which this next generation can't buy, is my 50 years of experience. So I offer and encourage you out there, whoever you are, wherever you are, pick my brains. Ask me a question. Now, I'm not looking for pen pals. I can't help you with your love life.
Fellas and Rikers, don't write him.
Well, unless you're making a movie. Then you... and I don't want to get into political discussions. I don't want to read your script.
Yes.
But if you have a question or two or three that you can put on one page, email me.
Yeah.
At chairmanjoe3, chairmanjoe and the number 3 at gmail.com.
Yep.
And if I get, and we get interesting questions and sufficient number, we'll answer them in the next podcast and the one after that. Doesn't mean you got to listen to me. Doesn't mean I'm always, you better listen to me. I take that back. It doesn't, it doesn't mean I'm always right.
Yeah.
But use what I know, man. It's there for
As part of your toolbox as you
Yeah.
go out to the world and
Yeah.
create.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll start fielding some of those questions. We'll put them on an episode. It hopefully pulls a thread on more conversations. It's quite a offer and a great resource. I think it's pretty exciting. And, in your career also, you've had experiences where in your mind you woke up in the morning feeling totally prepped and things didn't always go your way. So what is there an example of that stands out for you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. When I did Dallas the early years, because so much of it was being filmed at South Fork and some of these film ranches, they were all on a certain side of Dallas, and we were headquartered on the other side of Dallas. So, and because we were only shooting for a few days, the studio wouldn't allow us to build a cover set, which is not a good idea. It's one thing in California where the sun always shines. Even here we teach cover sets, but out of California, you're really rolling the dice to not have a cover set. So sure enough, first day of shooting, it snows. It's just like a blinding snowstorm. So we're out at South Fork, and I had a very curmudgeon-y director who, first of all, he was late to the set. He blamed me for that. He blamed me for the snow. And the executive producer put his arm around me, and he said, "Joe, what could you do?" I said, "We should have had a cover set. It's my bad. The studio wouldn't spend the $200,000. And as we were walking to get the coffee, the snow started to let up and the sky got blue. And a half hour later, we were shooting. But it was a really scary moment because I had violated a basic rule. You don't take a big show out of town and not have cover sets. Now, Had we spent the money and not needed it, I would have heard from the studio about that. You spent what? And we never, what? So, you're damned if you do and damned if you do. You make the best decision you can with the information you have. Another thing about producing, which I think I used to hand out, especially in the summer classes, it was a 5 or 6 page document that I created called So Many Titles, So Little Clarity, that describe what is a director, what is a cinematographer, what is a production designer, what is a best boy. Okay.
Sounds like your next episode.
Well, I could do that.
Right?
Yeah, I could do that.
I mean,
but one of the things that it's hard to quantify, but it's probably the most important thing a producer does, you create the environment where people can do their best work, where they feel safe, appreciated, supported. And as a director, you're always under the gun in episodic. They say you get to work on time, you're already half a day behind, you know. And I was filming, it was an episode of Knots Landing, and Constance McCashin was doing a scene, and a piece of her hair got over her eye. And in the middle of the take, I stopped, and I had the hairdresser come in and pull it. And I didn't think anything of it. When the scene was over, she came up to me, and she said, "I cannot thank you enough." I said, "For what?" She goes, "For not letting me play that whole, with that hair hanging down." She said, "A lot of guys would have just said, tick-tock."
Yeah.
And it never occurred to me to do that, because my mentality was and is, you protect your people.
Right.
You help them. You're there. You're not there to make them look bad or foolish. You're there to support them.
Right. In another example, we talked about it in our previous episode as well. We're talking about, snow, and we're talking about delays, and we're talking about money.
Right.
But you were in a situation where you were in a ravine in a flash flood, and that now is suddenly not only a loss of time and gear, but now people's lives and horses and things like that are on the line. And so when you look back at that experience, you almost have to imagine beyond what you could.
That experience started a long time ago. When one of my first jobs, the sound guy, mixer, came to me and he said, "Hey, Joe, when you scout a location, separate from the body of the crew and listen. Is there an echo? Do you hear planes? Do you hear cars on the freeway? Just separate from the crew for a minute and learn to respect sound. How is that is the hollow sound going to make the dialogue not work? Is the plane cut?" Because I used to joke in California, every director falls in love with the shot that's right beneath the landing pattern of some airport. So years go by, and I took it serious, and I got to be my M.O. I would separate. I would listen. Do I hear cars? Do I hear barking dogs? Do I hear radios? What's the ambiance beyond the immediate set? We were up in Santa Fe, and it was a great job. It was a Western with actually Matthew Perry's father, John Bennett Perry. And we were shooting in these 2 canyons. One was fairly wide and even sloped, and the other was much narrower and much steeper. And the one that was narrower and steeper was a dry riverbed running right through the middle. And the way I would get back and forth was they gave me a horse. And it was a sunny day, but I hear a sound that I can't identify. And I look at the ground. It's not an earthquake. The horse isn't unsettled. So what is it? And I look way off in the distance, and I see that it's clouding up. So I think, must be thunder. We're going to get rain. But okay, they're up there working. The clouds come closer, and the sound gets louder. And I still can't identify it. And then it started to rain. So I thought, okay, well, it's a little drizzle. Well, the drizzle became a heavy rain, which became a monsoon. And the sound got louder, and it suddenly dawned on me that what I was hearing was a flash flood coming down that canyon. I was in that canyon on this horse. I looked like the Roy Rogers and Trigger going up that canyon. And John Bennett Perry was sitting on his horse. They had the cameras again. I just ran in and I said, "Guys, get out. Go now." Well, who in their right mind does the producer come up and tell him to shut down in the middle of a shot? I said, "Guys," but the rain was getting heavier, and now here comes this rivulet down this canyon, and then finally they made the connection, and they started to go. By the time they started to go, the water was coming pretty fast, and it was clear it wasn't just another rainstorm, and so they all booked. Bennett Perry took off with his horse. Guys were grabbing grip stands and running and all that. Well, I'm the captain of the ship, so I'm going to be the last one out. I'm thinking to myself, is this really how the Joe dies? and finally, they all cleared, and by this time, the water was really coming, and we got out of there, and I made it to a rise off to the side, and apple boxes floating by, grip stands floating. Yeah, it was really something.
Wow.
But I stood on that horse and said, man, God bless you, Marty, because it was he, and knowing that sound doesn't necessarily only mean this kind of sound.
Right.
So you learn stuff, over
Yeah.
the years.
Yeah.
Give you an example which has no safety impact at all, but it is about communication. I was doing a show with Jessica Tandy right after she won the Oscar for driving Miss Daisy. Mm-hmm. And we're shooting in this warehouse. And got to be Friday, and we were about a good half a day behind. And the location manager came up to me and she said, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but we got to be out of here at 6 o'clock. And I said, 6 o'clock today or tomorrow? She goes, no, it's 2 o'clock. We got to be out of here at 6. I said, it was that same director, too. I said, you expect me to go tell Larry? And she said, well, I didn't want to upset him. I said, I know. I just won't upset him much. And just when so she goes away, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to tell this guy? I know his head's going to explode. Jessica Tandy calls me. She goes, Joe, dear, do you have a minute? And I said, yeah, sure, of course. She goes, would you know a dentist? I said, yeah, why? She said, well, dear, I have an abscessed tooth, and it's really starting to hurt.
Wow.
I said, Jessica, get out of here. It's 2 o'clock. You've been working since 6 o'clock with an abscessed tooth? She goes, yes, dear, but it's really getting unbearable. So I get on the phone. I call my dentist. I said, you want to work on Jessica Tandy's teeth? He says, you know Jessica? I said, listen. Anyway, long story short, we put her in a car. Her teeth probably saved my job because the guy stayed till about 8 or 10 o'clock that night. They pulled her tooth.
Yeah.
But as a trooper, man, she was working with, you ever had an abscess?
Yes, it is blindingly
oh, man. I don't even know how she could remember her lines.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's
But
incredible.
that's a breakdown in communication.
Yeah, that's incredible. So this is really amazing. Congratulations again on getting this done. This is pretty fantastic. We have a lot more conversations coming up. You have several projects on deck that you're also working on that we'll also talk at length about.
Yeah.
And
I also, if for whatever reason nobody takes us up on the offer, I have other people who we're going to interview.
that's right.
And some of them you'll find very interesting.
Yeah.
My philosophy for them and me is we're all going to go away and history starts today. Like we have so much experience where we should put it out there while we're still here to put it out here.
Right. Exactly. Well, Joe, congratulations again.
Thank you, sir.
Nothing Dies for Film. Get it. It's a great one. And we look forward to the next one.
Thank you very much.
See you next time.
Take care, man. Thanks.